We're here with Tracy Fullerton, and we're talking about DML 2012. Tracy, I know that your theme, concentration area for the conference is reimagining media for learning. So
That's right.
why don't we start by talking about what that means?
Well, I think when we imagine using media for learning, we've gone through a number of phases of imagining that combination, and often we think about using media to scale existing methods for teaching and for learning, and I think often we're really disappointed with the outcomes because when you use these various forms of media, and particularly the ones that we're dealing with today, things like games and mobile technologies, social networks, you're bound to be disappointed with the outcome when you're trying to scale an existing form of education. I think what our challenge today is to imagine how those particular technologies and situations can allow us to rethink the learning experience itself, and the dynamics of that experience, the outcomes we're looking for, the way that we measure learning. I think there's just tremendous opportunities for playful learning, for example, for individual discovery. All of these kinds of goals that we've had in the past, but perhaps haven't been able to realize.
I'm excited by the things you say because I've got a lot of pictures in my head about what they mean.
Right.
What about some concrete examples? You talk about playful learning.
Well, I'll just give you an example from my own experience. At this particular moment, we're, for example, running a alternate reality game for our incoming class of freshmen. And usually these freshmen who are coming into where I work, which is the School of Cinematic Arts, are a little bit wary. This is the first time a lot of them have been away from home. They're ambitious, so and they're competitive, but maybe that means that they are not quite certain of their classmates. What we've done is we've created a game where the students are prompted to immediately begin working in teams together, and creating all different kinds of media, everything from screenplays to photo essays to collages to board games to salons, short films, and to do this in teams that they make up themselves. And it's what you see. What you see is kind of amazing. The attitude of these students towards learning has changed so dramatically that from what we see in the past, they are completely taking on the responsibility and the sort of activation for their own learning onto their own shoulders. It's kind of amazing, actually. We're having a hard time keeping up with them. So that's just an example. I like to think that the best thing we can do at this time in this moment of what we call reimagining media for learning is to come up with models and examples, and that's we can learn from those. There's not one particular game or one particular kind of social network that's going to work in every situation, and so it's really important that we as designers get a chance to try out, I think, a lot of different possibilities. The interesting thing, I think, for something like this ARG is that it has a sort of built-in assessment of the learning that's being achieved in the actual game. So we're able to see how many other students that are being collaborated with at any given time, what types of media students are experimenting with. There are kinds of things that then an instructor, for example, could have knowledge of and then go in and work with students on.
That's the beginning of an answer to a question that was coming to mind, which is, of course, at your institution, you have self-selected students who are already somewhat adept at the media. The I can imagine and would encourage you to come up with a little cookbook so that other teachers could do that as a kind of break the ice activities for students. But there comes a point where students who are less adept need some instruction and coaching. So how does this peer-to-peer kind of bottom up, I guess bottom up's not really the right word. I think peer-to-peer is a better way to talk about it, learning. How does that mesh with the instructor is the expert who's going to show people who are less expert how to do things?
Well, first of all, I should say that yeah, I don't really subscribe to the instructor's the expert. So I guess I come at that from a kind of orthogonal perspective.
So
But
you would find one of the students who's really great at video editing and have them teach the other students? Is that what
oh,
you're
yeah, that's an exercise I do in my classes. Actually, every semester we have what I call the skill sharing market. And day one, we go around and we say three things that each person says three things that they know how to do, and then we have a discussion about other things that students would like to learn. And then the students go around and make deals with one another, and you have to find one person to learn a skill from and one person to teach a skill to. And over the course of the semester, the students work together to learn and to teach their skills. And one of the reasons I do this on day one is because, I just tell them that, it's too complex. The kinds of things that you want to learn are too complex for any one person to hold the keys. What you need to learn is how to learn from other people, how to find the people who have the knowledge and the skills that you need, and to seek them out and to make relationships with them and to find ways to learn from them. So that's just something that for me I guess is a little bit in my DNA. But I will say that the uh, the ARG is, you're right, for a self-selected group of people, but it's certainly other types of participatory situations could be built that allowed instructors to know when to intervene. And I think that's one of the really great things about this idea of imagining media situations for today, because we can have a light touch in a sense. We can create these social environments where the students are self-motivated, where they're driven by their own desires to figure things out and to learn. But then we're sort of kind of tracking what they're able to do and perhaps what they're not able to do. And there can be a kind of interventions where it's required, because you don't really want to intervene when someone's already just challenging themselves and driving themselves, right? But intervening where perhaps a slight help could make all the difference, right? There's actually an interesting game. I think you and I talked about this not maybe a while back. A game called Collegeology that we've been working on, where it's a board game, and students go through the college process together, and they kind of talk about the college process and their concerns about it as part of this little board game. And what we find interesting is that also surfaces a lot of peer knowledge about a subject that students are often kind of lockjaw when it comes to speaking about what their plans for college are. They're often sort of, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do in college? Nothing. I don't know, right? But when you have a group of kids playing a game together, they're more apt to ask each other questions and answer each other's questions. So peer-to-peer sharing is not always about just who has the knowledge. It's about creating an environment where it's okay to ask, right? I think it goes a little farther than just who has the knowledge and who doesn't have the knowledge.
Wonderful. I can tell you're onto something when I'm making a note in the back of my mind to do this with my own students. So that's what I hope a lot of that comes out of the DML 2012, is that a lot of ideas that people can adopt will begin filtering out from this really wonderful collection of learning mavens to everybody else who's interested in digital media and learning. So So thanks. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the conference in San Francisco.
Thank you. It'll be fun.
Okay, bye.
Take care.